Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. How are we feeling? We are approaching the end of the day. It's been an intense 2 days, but very fruitful discussions, I believe, right? That we can take forward. So we're going to keep our panel discussion very short so that we can go out, network, have drinks, and identify mentors. We have been talking about mentors, and there are only a few people who raised their hands in the room. So are we ready for the drinks after this? Are we? All right. Very good. Thank you. Now going back to my panel, I'm going to ask them to quickly introduce themselves, their names, what they do, and the organizations that they come from. So over to you.
Hello again, everybody. My name is Neill Nortje. I'm a group director for Wingu Africa. We build carrier-neutral data centers all over East Africa, and we're very proud to be part of the ecosystem here in Ethiopia. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Melka Girma. I'm the Partnerships and Marketing Director for Arifpay. Arifpay is a financial institution licensed by the National Bank of Ethiopia as the first payment system operator in Ethiopia after non-bank institutions were allowed to provide financial services back in 2021. We operate point-of-sale devices and payment gateway. I hope we'll be talking more about these things later. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Habib Mohammed. I came from Addis Ababa Science and Technology University, which is one of the two science and technology university that has been just established to solve industry problems. So I'm the director of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics Center of Excellence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So our panel is going to build on from the Connected Ethiopia Part 1 that we had yesterday. So I'm just going to start with a quick overview of the connectivity status globally. When you look at global reports, we hear that around 2.6 million people remain offline today globally. And then going down to Africa, around 860 million people are offline. And then zoning into East Africa, we have around 360 million people who are still unconnected today. Now going to Ethiopia, we realize that it's actually among the top 5 least connected countries in Africa, and actually second after Nigeria. So definitely a lot that needs to be done to bring the majority of people online. Then maybe a bit of statistics on Ethiopia. The ITU report indicates around 19% of Ethiopians have access to internet, even though locally we report around 33%. Despite those disparities in the global and local reports, it's clear that there still needs to be a lot of work that needs to be done to bring people online and access different opportunities in the digital economy. Now, 19% according to the ITU. Yes, that's the internet penetration. Okay, so because Neill has got a lot of interest on this, and Wingu is doing a lot on the data infrastructure space, I'll start with Neill. So given the Ethiopia's global performance, as I've articulated from the global reports, what would you say is the role of private sector data infrastructure, especially those that are provided by companies like Wingu and other players in the market to drive meaningful and universal connectivity?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I wasn't quite aware of that number because it seems quite low to me and quite disappointing. I think the best way to sort of attack this issue is to look at partnerships between technologies. So Bradley was talking yesterday about the opportunity to use low Earth orbit satellites to connect to people who don't have access to fiber or any other services. So we really have to have a look at how we can use these partnerships to quickly reach the people that are not getting services at all at the moment. I mean, that's like 80% of the country, which is phenomenally high, and it's a terrible number. We should actually be a little bit ashamed of ourselves. So there are partnerships all across the ecosystem, right? We're talking about last mile, where we could use that kind of technology. We're talking about partnerships between international players and local players to bring different services into the country so that people don't have to use the international access to access those types of services. We're talking about partnerships between local players and others to bring services that may have been used elsewhere and make them available here. So there are a lot of different places that the partnerships can work. Obviously, in the data center space, we behave like a sort of a central partnership platform where we encourage people to come in, we encourage people to interconnect. The more networks are connected and interconnected, the closer the services are to the end user. So that's kind of the role that we play. But I think there are so many areas for partnership to deliver to the unserviced right now.
Okay, thank you, Neill. Now moving on to Melka. Neill has already articulated some of the strategies that could be adopted to drive universal connectivity, right, to reach the unconnected. So when you now come back to Ethiopia again, looking at the reality, 70% or more than 70% of the population resides in rural areas which remain under or unconnected. So given this current status of digital infrastructure in Ethiopia and you operating in the fintech space, how are you positioning yourself to ensure inclusive participation in the digital economy and financial inclusion?
Thank you for that question. So I think when we say digital infrastructure, right, we mean the internet backbone, the broadband, the mobile telecommunication, but most importantly, especially for us, those players who are in the fintech space, we mean the national infrastructure we have for the digital space, which is, for example, the national switch we have. That's quite important because even for players like us to come into the market, a lot of things has to be done in terms of, the back office infrastructure and things like that. But having the national switch from the get-go has helped us to utilize that infrastructure and be able to accept whatever payment options that are available in the market. Of course, the national switch in Ethiopia is ET switch. Arifpay, as a financial institution, is also hosted with an ET switch. That's why we are able to accept all cards in the country, both for the physical payment options and online. The reason I'm mentioning these details is because it's really important for financial inclusion. And when we say inclusion, we mean both for the merchant and for the end user or for the consumer. Imagine there are close to 2.3 million MSMEs in Ethiopia. Probably 3,000 or 4,000 of them are enabled for point-of-sale devices. There are close to 12,000 active POS devices in the country. 50% of them, we usually speak about it, but 50% of them exist at the bank branches for cash withdrawal purposes. And go to probably any merchant place and you'll find all those duplicate POS devices, factor out that, and you'll end up having probably 2,000 or 3,000 businesses enabled for POS devices in Ethiopia. And we are saying there are close to 2.3 million MSMEs across the country. The number of merchants that were enabled for these digital payment solutions is quite low as compared to the magnitude of the economy, the number of the population we have as a country. So when we say digital infrastructure, especially that are provided at national levels, it enables fintechs like Arifpay to be able to provide these solutions in a better way for these MSMEs that were not enabled for such financial services. It's quite important for MSMEs because Usually we speak that MSMEs are the backbone of the economy. They hire the most, they contribute the most to the GDP, but they have lack of digital footprints. And fintechs like Arifpay is what they bring. What they bring to these MSMEs is just that digital footprint required for the bankers to provide their financial services for these MSMEs. So that is a story from the merchant side. So as Arifpay, we are trying to address these digital payment solutions vastly across the country, utilizing the digital infrastructure that is provided from the national switch, which it is switch. As a matter of fact, to make sure that merchants are enabled with these solutions, we are not only accepting cards on POS devices, but I would say for the first time in Ethiopia now, we are accepting all wallets on the POS device as well. So a merchant which cannot connect to each of these service providers can have these solutions and be able to accept whatever payment options are available in the country. That is from the merchant side. And when we speak about inclusion from the consumer side, I think the key factor is for anyone to be able to pay or to be able to transact with whatever payment options they have on hand. If we can enable that across the economy, it contributes to the consumer inclusion you mentioned in your question. And at Arifpay, what we are trying to do is for the merchant to be able to accommodate whatever payment option the consumer is bringing to the table, be it online or at the merchant place physically. All in all, I could say the economy is going digital, obviously. The future is bright. Leading fintechs like Arifpay are utilizing and optimizing the available digital infrastructures to thrive in that future. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we see there's a lot that's happening in the financial space, and also in Ethiopia there's this increasing focus on digital transformation. We've seen recently there was the Digital Ethiopia Midterm Review Conference, there was the Digital Finance Summit that was led by the World Bank. So a lot is really happening in the digital transformation space in Ethiopia. So moving to academia, to Habib, we just wanted to understand, maybe the audience would want to know, what opportunities do you see as the university in terms of AI use for innovation, in terms of using it to enhance different sectors of the economy, and maybe even improving digital infrastructure, or looking at elements like network connectivity. Do you have any specific interventions as universities or as Addis Ababa University where you're working towards producing graduates that can address current gaps around ICT initiatives that are being implemented in the country? For example, any research that you are working on emerging technologies? So your question is actually two parts. Over to you.
Thank you very much. It is a very important question. Let me start from how the industry and the academia should collaborate in order to bring changes to the country. So the program has to be created in such a way that it has to just beyond the theoretical knowledge, so as to get the practical experience for the students. So this digital ecosystem has brought a profound impact towards that. And we, as a university, Addis Ababa Science Technology University, it's actually established as a university for industry. It just assesses the problem of the industry and then customize its program based on those problems. So our students are capacitated to just based on that, so as to solve the problem in the industry. So to solve such a kind of initiative, we have about 8 centers of excellences. Among them, artificial intelligence and robotics among the 8 centers of excellences. So what we do right here is that we do researches the real problem of the industry, and we capacitate our students towards that problem so that the students will go to the industry so as to solve their real problem. Those collaboration is actually done by using collaborative curriculum development, by using internship, by using joint applied research, by doing together. And also, sometimes the industry will come to the university so as to present guest lectures, and also they participated in the workshops so that the students will have an insight on what problem is existing in the industry. So we do such a kind of activities there. When we come to our what we do for the industry, we participate to solve the problems. First, we assess the problem from the industry, and we give solutions. We use our students and our staffs to develop some digital ecosystems. For example, for registering, for grading the students, and also for automating the administrative ecosystem. We do such a kind of research. So our activity is just linked in such a way. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Habib.
Sorry, Habib.
Okay, Neill, over to you.
Hello. Habib, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
What percentage of your graduates go straight into the workforce? How many people are getting jobs immediately when they graduate? Do you know?
Actually, most of our students are just, they start just engaging with the job in the third and fourth year. When they are fourth year, and so the industry will come to the university, and they hire them. Most of the students just hired before graduation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think it's a question. Very, yes. I was going to say the same. Impressive interventions from Addis Ababa University there in terms of preparing the graduates to deliver in today's increasingly interconnected world. So very impressive. So I just wanted to turn to the two other panelists just to see from maybe digital financial space, how do you work with research and academia in terms of making sure that they're able to come up with curriculums or come up with solutions or graduates that can deliver in the space that you work with? And then same on the digital infrastructure space. So Neill can follow up after Melka.
Okay, thank you. I think that's where the power of partnership comes in, I guess. Not only Arifpay, but all the thriving fintech companies in Ethiopia should be able to connect with the academia in terms of creating awareness from the grassroots level, as well as in terms of increasing the use of these technologies throughout the community in the academia segment. Maybe it would be good if I mention the issue of awareness in Ethiopia. Recently we asked a quick survey online and on the ground for people to guess how much can they pay using their cards in a day. That's a transaction limit to pay, not to withdraw, but to pay. And most of them responded that 10,000. Most of them, like 80 or 70% of them responded 10,000. Now, this is quite important because it's not lack of literacy, but it's lack of awareness. I can't say people don't know about cards. They are using them. And for your information, there are close to 42 million debit cards in this country. But 70% of them don't know how much they can actually pay within a day. And the actual answer was actually between like 300,000 and 1 million or 700,000, but most of them responded 10,000, and they kind of associated with it with the transaction limit when you withdraw cash using your debit card. That's lack of awareness, and it's something that triggers something needs to be done between the fintech companies or all these financial service providers and the academia in terms of addressing these and similar issues that are pertinent in terms of lack of awareness across the country with regard to available digital financial services, the use of whatever payment options they have in their hand. People carry all these cards, even other, probably let me mention another example at this point. Recently, we also asked some dwellers in Addis whether they can really cash in and cash out at a Telebir or M-Pesa agent or some CBR agent across the city. You can see people lined up at the ATM machine to withdraw cash while you have an agent just nearby. We can't say it's lack of literacy. It's lack of awareness, what kind of solutions they can get with all these available financial services. So I think it's the kind of partnership between the academia and the fintechs and other financial institutions that can kind of fill this gap, I guess. Not only that, but also I think it should be embedded in the curriculum of the country. These financial literacy things can be addressed with that regard, I guess. Yeah, thank you, Neill.
Thank you. So to be honest with you, Wingu at this point doesn't do a huge amount in terms of interacting with the academia. I'm struggling to speak, it's too late in the afternoon. But obviously that changes. We do feel that we need to make positive social impact everywhere we work. For example, in Djibouti, we do have an innovation center which allows for young people to come in and get training. We partner with our international partners to try to provide courses that will allow these young people to become qualified in some area of tech and hopefully then give them the opportunity to further their careers in this field.
Great, thank you very much for those insights on Ethiopia to all of you. I don't know if there are any questions in the room. Okay, I see a question. So I'm gonna take 2 questions and then we move to the next round of questions for the panelists. Okay.
This is for primarily Arifpay. You mentioned there are close to 4 million small businesses. I don't know how do you define small businesses. However, very few thousand that use point of sale devices. My own personal opinion, I would say, is that the pricing point of a point of sale device perhaps is around 20,000. Maybe it's a cost prohibitive for small businesses to utilize that, right? Have you considered kind of payment plan? They could pay it in 3 years, 4 years, or whatever, right? So when an iPhone came out, in 2007, 300, 400 was a price point very high. What they've done is they divided it into 24 months. Now the rest is history. Maybe that's something you should consider. Furthermore, maybe we don't need a hardware point of sale. If we move to a software point of sale, the cost will go down. Any work in that space. That's one. Second thing, utilization, quality of service. I really question the quality of service, especially payment in Ethiopia is very low. The percentage of payment failures, very high. And sometimes takes months to clear a payment that you paid today. It takes 60 days after you forgot you paid it, and that leads to people avoiding to use. Any work in those two areas from Arifpay?
Thank you for the remarks and the questions as well. Just to reflect on those a bit. Of course, point of sale device seems a bit expensive, but as I mentioned earlier, there are close to 42 million debit cards in this country. And we have about 12,000 POS devices across the country, from which only 50% of them are in the market. Now, look at the ratio, it's quite high, as you can see. Probably we'll have like some 15,000 cards for every single POS device. So since we are in the payment space, it's our responsibility to find out solutions to address these payment options to the society. However, For me, the cards have nowhere to go except the ATM machines, because again, when we look at the data from the national switch, the number of transactions that are conducted at the ATM machine is increasing. Last year, it was around 171 million ATM transactions. This year, it's around 356 million ATM transactions. So it's more than double. In terms of ETB, it was around 197 billion Ethiopian birr withdrawn from ATM machines. This year, it's around 474 billion Ethiopian birr. I'm referring to the national data that I have got from the national switch. So that means people are using their cards, but they are using it at the ATM. So that's what I mean by the cards have nowhere to go except the ATM machine. Coming to Arifpay, what we are trying to do is to be able to provide these devices with affordable prices. Banks used to bring them probably at $600 to $1,000 per unit. That's very expensive. Now we have built the whole software in-house. We don't have cost for that, so we are just bringing the hardware device from abroad because it's not being manufactured here. And now we have significantly reduced the price to probably 100, 150. And we have witnessed that merchants actually want to own the device. You know, in Ethiopia, POS devices are given for free. There is no transaction fee. And you know, sometimes when it's free, it's kind of fake because you don't give value to it. And for me, probably it's my personal opinion, but it's not a core business for the banks operating POS. And I believe that's why the National Bank of Ethiopia came up with a specific license for POS operators. That's why we went and got that license as well. And now, at least with Arifpay, the customer service has significantly improved. Usually you don't get your money on T+1 basis as per the regulation. But we are doing it on T+1 basis 99.9% of the time. And that's a significant improvement for the merchants because that was one of the biggest headaches in the country. And the other one is, you know, the customer service, which is somehow related to the utilization that was also mentioned. Probably if you get some double charges and you call your acquirer or your issuer, the probability of someone picking the phone is less, and the probability of the solution being solved as quickly as possible is even lesser. Now, with the coming of dedicated POS operators like Arifpay, I think that's also significantly improved. And to do that, we didn't want to do it physically. Those activation and utilization activities are not being done physically. We have a terminal management system in which we monitor all our fleet on the ground, right from a single dashboard. You know, at this time, we see which POS device battery is off, how much percentage is it. Our technical team can get into the POS device remotely and do some quick maintenance, software maintenance, and things like that. So we had to do that infrastructure from the get-go to be able to make sure that these devices are being utilized. And we are looking at the data that has been coming in terms of transaction and utilization, and I think there are quite improvements, but that doesn't mean it's enough. We have to do more, and we have to come up with also other solutions such as the soft POS you have also mentioned. But I want to thank for the remarks. Thank you.
Okay, great. I think this takes us to the second round of the discussions where now we're looking at opportunities for scaling across Africa. So I'm going to start with you again, Melka, just to build on what you have said around the solutions that you've come up with as Arifpay in terms of driving digital financial inclusion in Ethiopia. So what opportunities do you see for scaling across Africa, looking at the kind of solutions that you've come up with?
I think one of the big lessons that I can say is something that the audience also can take away is the fact that we have built the solution in-house. We don't import the software, we have built it in-house. That means now the banks can also outsource their POS division to dedicated POS operators like us. And they are actually doing it. So far, we have had a couple of bankers who have completely outsourced their POS operation to us. Arifpay does the merchant management, the settlement, the activation, and everything, the overall POS operation activities. That means, the banks can focus on their core activities, which is deposit mobilization, import-export, capital formation, things like that, and they can partner with dedicated payment operators or POS operators or payment gateway operators like us to be able to excel in that digital payments infrastructure arena. So one of the key areas I think is significant in terms of addressing this digital payments agenda across the continent is to be able to have the solution on hand. That helps us to go to the market faster. That helps us to have local solutions, local use cases as fast as possible. That's what we are actually doing here in Ethiopia as Arifpay. The other thing I want to stress on is on the partnership. We have had like some 11, 12 types of partnership types in which channel partners can come and work with us. Maybe a good story to mention this would be something I heard a few days ago. A local microfinance institution imported some 250 devices some 2 years ago, and they are left with only 30 of them now because they didn't have hypercare service, after sale service for maintenance and things like that. What Arifpay did was to have managed service providers for each location in which the partner goes to the merchant and makes sure that the devices are working well. We also have system integrator partners who bring merchants with online payment use cases. They integrate our API into their systems, platforms, apps, and websites, and we share revenue. That's the kind of partnership ecosystem we are building. And it's quite important, and that is the second lesson I think is good to take away. The other, probably the third thing I want to mention is on addressing the issue of awareness. We can have all those nice products out there in the market, but unless the merchant knows the value of those products, I've mentioned a couple of examples earlier, both from the merchant side and the user side. Unless the community knows what's out there in the market that they can use with whatever they have in their hands, it's meaningless, right? So financial institutions, financial technology service providers like us should be able to also address the issue of awareness in terms of utilizing whatever is there in the market in terms of digital payment options. Those are the three things I think would be very helpful. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Melka. So Neill, for solutions like those from Arifpay and other digital solutions to be scaled across the continent or even globally, we need reliable infrastructure, right? So last month, 13 African countries in the West African coastline were affected by an undersea cable break, and this caused degraded services, and some of them had a near total blackout. So that's huge. And this also follows a previous outage on Seacom that happened around March, and other undersea cables. So we can see that these incidents, they actually highlight Africa's vulnerability when it comes to digital infrastructure. So given Wingu Africa's experience working with global cable providers, especially your strategic positioning in Djibouti, what steps do you think should be taken to establish a more resilient digital infrastructure for Africa or across the continent?
Yeah, thanks, Meshingo. It was an absolute nightmare, really, because at the same time, or over the same time period, we had multiple cable breaks on the West Coast and multiple cable breaks in the Red Sea, and we rely very heavily on that capacity. And when I say we, I mean the whole of sub-Saharan Africa relies very heavily on that capacity. Already a lot of work has been done. We have the Equiano cable, which comes down the West Coast. It's a brand new cable. It can carry terabits of information. We have the 2 Africa cable, which is completing on the East Coast. West Coast is already completed. East Coast is coming. In fact, most countries have already been delivered. Early next year, this region will get Google's Blue Ramen cable, which will land with Wingu Africa and TO7 in Djibouti. So there is more and more interest in the African market. There is more and more cable capacity. Obviously, the operators also need to take it upon themselves to ensure that they have redundancy across their international delivery networks. We had a lot of customers making a lot of late night calls, trying to find capacity on cables that were still up and functional. Thankfully, the Djibouti data center team, along with the Djibouti telecom team, we were able to do, for a lot of the DDC customers in Djibouti, we were able to find short-term contracts for them, move capacity onto the functioning cables, and within 4 or 5 days, we had those networks back up and running. So, Djibouti is an absolute key point. It remains so key for this region because it has around 14 cable systems, I think 11 subsea and 3 terrestrial, that can sort of solve these issues for the region. So it is getting better with the amount of capacity that we're getting, but it is also up to the operators or the people that are managing and designing the networks to ensure that they are able to deliver the information for their end user from wherever they get that upstream upstream capacity. So it's vital.
Mm-hmm. Great. Just building on to that, Neill, there's been a lot of talk around satellite from previous panels. What role do you see satellite technologies playing in terms of building redundancy and reducing the reliance that we're having on undersea cables?
Yeah, I think, every technology has its part to play in this. I think especially the low Earth orbiting satellite is going to play a big role in the last mile service provision. So reaching the people who are out in the middle of nowhere, mines, businesses like that can use those kinds of services. I live in Zambia, so I am a Starlink customer now. The service is fantastic. I put a little thing on my roof and it works perfectly. The costs are lower than most of the ISPs. I have basically no outages to speak of. So, I think with these services coming in, we're going to see maybe better levels of service for the African continent, and maybe lower pricing as well, which is going to be more affordable for more people, right? So these are two things that we always talk about why we aren't getting there, and now these things are becoming possible. I think satellite also has a massive role to play in a backhaul situation. I know that it has been expensive in the past, but I'm sure commercial models can be worked out where we can mesh these networks, terrestrial subsea cable with some sort of satellite capacity as well, so that you ensure that you have full redundancy across your service offering.
Great, thank you, Neill. I'm now going to move to Habib. I think this is your last question before we move on to the audience. We see advanced economies across the globe. They invest a lot on R&D, and I just wanted to understand how the university is leveraging local and regional national research and education networks to drive meaningful partnerships, as well as research on emerging technologies like AI.
Thank you very much. Actually, this artificial intelligence, this emerging technology, specifically artificial intelligence and generative AI, are reshaping even the networking infrastructure toward this profound impact in terms of optimizing the resources. For example, to customize dynamic resource allocation, and also enhancing security, as well as to optimize contents we use this artificial intelligence so as to bring the impact of improving the network, enhancing the security, and also optimizing the resource and reducing the cost. But when you consider just adopting this artificial intelligence, we have to make sure that we're just taking care of on the precaution that are the databasing issue. When we adopt artificial intelligence to Ethiopia, the data has to consider or deliberately trained with Ethiopian culture and Ethiopian ground issues. It's based, artificial intelligence is only based where for the data it has been trained.
Yeah.
So if we are taking care of such a kind of precaution, artificial intelligence will bring a profound impact for Africa, especially for industries, so as to automate resources.
Definitely. And I see already Ethiopia is already positioning itself ahead of the curve in terms of AI. I see the university already has an AI specific department. We also have the Artificial Intelligence Institute here that's already developing AI solutions. So as the university, how do you collaborate with other universities in the region on this?
Actually, we're working with other universities like Adama University, and also as well as some government sectors, for health sectors, agriculture sectors, transportation sectors. Artificial intelligence, actually, we cannot escape from artificial intelligence. It's everywhere. We can get it in manufacturing area so as to automate the manufacturing processes, and also to reduce the cost. Also, we're working for Ministry of Health, actually, in the health issue, automating the manual data, and also just preparing applications so as to automate the decision mechanism issues for doctors and such like that. So we are cooperating with different stakeholders, not only with the universities.
Great. Thank you very much. How much time do I have? Okay. Actually, the gentleman at the back raised his hand earlier, so I'll start with him. And there is a lady also. So we have 3 questions if we have enough time.
Let's make them brief. We'll take the questions back to back and then see which ones to answer.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Biniam. I came from Ethio Telecom. I'm a software developer, and I have a question for Wingu. First of all, we have a lot of young people. They can develop a platform, every kind of platform that can serve the ecosystem. The big problem is there is no data center integration. In our city or in our country, most of in Africa, there is a shared hosting, maybe cPanel can serve or Plus can serve. So in your organization, what kind of data center or cloud-based service you are going to give us for our application to serve, or for more explanation? Like a security, penetration, firewall, and data serving or database, such kind of service as a package, how we are going get such kind of service. And for the marketing director from Arifpay, I like the way you spread, so I really appreciate your survive. So what kind of marketing strategy or penetration you are using for surviving in the ecosystem? And also, what kind of API service? For example, the organization, they have their license ID, blah, blah stuff. So you are recognizing such kind of service, and you are going to provide the API integration. What if for developers, what kind of API you are going to provide to share the revenue?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
We had one more question from, here, over here. This one.
Thank you, everyone. This is a very interesting approach for us, especially who's working on the business development aspect. I'm Ankasa from Connected Ethiopia. We are working with different SMEs, and then we are approaching minimum of 5 SME per day. And then we were like challenging one of the basic problems SME in Ethiopia is like digital literacy. So what is like, I have simple question for Arifpay and Addis University Science and Technology. The first question will be for Arifpay, do you have any strategic plan working with small micro enterprises? Because we see they are struggling to enhance their financial growth and financial plan. They didn't have a plan. Their literacy on financial apps or anyway. So if you have any platform working with SMEs, I'm happy to know those things. Second one for science and technology. I used to do work as a lecturer in the university, and then there is an expertise, as you said before, on different sectors. And then in the ground level, we have SMEs, which is really working on the business. They have a good profit, and then they lack of expertise. So do you have any bridge program? If there is something going on, it's better to know now. If there is any bridge program linking SME and, as you said before, young graduate trainee or something else. That's the question. Thank you.
Great, thanks. We're already out of time, so may I request just 1 sentence, or maybe, 1 minute each in terms of your responses. 1 sentence is a bit much, maybe 1 minute each. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, to answer the question on shared services or shared servers very quickly. So as a carrier neutral data center, we don't like to compete very much with our customers. Okay, so we provide a platform, we provide power, cooling, connectivity, and we allow people to provide services on top of that. We do currently already have 2 cloud service providers in the data center. So if you're looking for those kinds of services, please come and find me afterwards, and I'll put you in touch with those people directly, and they'll be able to help you. Those services are now available in Ethiopia. It's fine.
Melka, 1 minute.
Sure. To answer the question from the gentleman from Ethio Telecom, I think the simplest answer to your question in terms of market strategy is the partnership strategy we are forging. To put it in a simple example, now we are able to accept wallets on our POS device, not only cards, but wallets on our POS device, because of the partnerships we are forming with the likes of Ethio Telecom, and we thank for that. So 90% of our go-to-market strategy is focused on channel partners. We are building a huge channel partners ecosystem. We can talk more later if we can catch up, but to answer the second question that was addressed to me from Inkomoko, I guess, for MSMEs, all merchants that are using our payment systems, we are kind of having their data to have that as a credit scoring mechanism for the banks. So one of the key challenge for the MSMEs is because they don't have digital footprints, they don't easily access financial services from the banks. So to ease that, Arifpay is providing digital footprint for MSMEs so that they can get conventional financial services that the rest of the businesses are getting from the banks. In the interest of time, I have to pause the.
Yeah, thanks. Habib, 1 minute.
I'm sorry, can you kindly repeat your question, please? I didn't get.
Maybe you can take it afterwards because we're out of time. Meshingo, would you like to sum up the discussions? And
yes, so thank you very much for being attentive throughout the discussion. If you have any questions, any follow-up questions after this, please do meet up with the panel outside. I don't want to take much of your time, but at this point, I would like to invite all of you to help me to applaud this awesome panel. Thank you very much.